8 Central African Time. This will be now our final story for this Wednesday on Africa Rise and Shine. Let's look at Russia's Prosecutor General declaring Amnesty International an undesirable organization, in quotes, banning the global human rights group from operating in the country. In a statement on May 19th, authorities accused the UK-based group of promoting, and I quote, Russophobic, end quote, agendas, supporting extremist groups, and backing the Kyiv regime. The move marks another step in Moscow's ongoing crackdown on civil society amid its war in Ukraine. For comment on this matter, we joined on the line by Amnesty International's Eastern Europe and Central Asia Director, Marie Struthers. Marie, thank you for joining us, and how are you this Wednesday?
Very well, and thank you for the invitation.
We appreciate you making time. How do you respond to Russia's claims against your organization that, as they quote, you are an undesirable organization, end quote?
As you were saying in your introduction, the declaration of our organization as undesirable is part of a long-standing, very broad pattern of silencing any critical dissenting voices inside Russia, but also outside, on the vast repression against civil society that has been going on for 10 years at least. And that means silencing the voices of human rights activists, of lawyers, of independent journalists, of banning civil society organizations. It's all part of a strategy to prevent Russian voices from speaking freely about human rights violations that the Russian government has been committing repeatedly. These include the war crimes and crimes against humanity that the Russian armed forces have been committing since 2014 in Ukraine.
What does this ban mean for your work in Russia legally? Will it be now a criminal offense for any rights groups to associate with you on Russian matters?
To be honest, our office in Russia was effectively closed down very soon after the February 2022 full-scale invasion. It means that we were had our official registration removed by the Ministry of Justice, so we haven't been able to work freely in the country since that time. This particular decision means that those inside Russia who share amnesty information via social media or other means are subject first to an administrative offense, and if they repeat that sharing of amnesty information, can be subject to criminal prosecution. So it's really a blow, first and foremost, to those inside Russia who seek to promote and defend human rights. But we have been dealing with the consequences of acting outside the law because, as you might recall, it is a criminal offense to even call the war in Ukraine a war. In Russia, it is called a special military operation. So this is not so new for us, but a bit more new for those inside Russia who seek to protect human rights.
What about those outside of Russia who may retweet or share some of the work you do on social media platforms? Are they now also at risk of being targeted by the Kremlin administration?
In theory, in black and white, but the cases are few, and it is mostly aimed at those who distribute information in the Russian language. That is what we really see as the aim of this decision, is to limit the distribution of information in the Russian language. So yes, it is possible, and it does happen from time to time, but much more frequently inside Russia.
How will you support local activists now? For years you've released reports on Russia's attack on Ukraine. We don't want to call it a war, as you say, accusing it of crimes against humanity. Those reports cannot be forgotten. Would you say that this ban is too little, too late, and the world has already been exposed to what you wanted to know from your research and work?
Yeah. I don't think it's too little. I don't think it's too late. It's a sad development in the steady and broad repression of any independent reporting and promotion of fact-based information on Russia's human rights record. This will not stop us. We will be even more determined to continue reporting on the violations in Ukraine, and we will find ways. All of Russian civil society and those who support Russian civil society have found ways since the full-scale invasion and even before in 2014 to get the information across. So this is not new. We will double down our efforts and find new ways to make sure that Russians have access to justice, but in safety, of course.
And in your continued efforts to monitor human rights in Russia, how much of support from the international community will you need on that? Or do you feel, as Amnesty International, you can still do this on your own?
We're a global international movement, so de facto. We are international. We're supported by at least 10 million people across all the continents of the world. And I feel that this decision will only reinforce support for a global movement such as Amnesty, because, as you said, it's a well-known fact. The daily violations being committed inside Russia and outside by Russia. And by the way, we do believe this decision was taken first and foremost in retaliation for reporting on the crackdown on independent journalists and human rights activists in Russia, but equally for our constant and deep reporting on Ukraine.
How would you convince funders to not allow this banning and negative judgment against you to affect the much-needed funding for Amnesty International that's very much needed when it comes to relief efforts?
Oh, I don't think our funders are naive and are very well of all the steps that the Russian government has taken, at least since 2014, when it first passed the foreign agent law, and then followed very quickly in 2015 by this law on undesirable organizations. We've been supported all along, and I think this will be viewed as an opportunity to support the dwindling number of voices that are committed to reporting on the human rights situation in Russia. So I think, conversely, this will encourage supporters.
As we speak of support, Human Rights Watch, another international rights group, has added its voice to these latest developments, calling the ban Russia's ambition to hide the truth about human rights violations. Also, independent group the International Service for Human Rights say this is a criminalization of Amnesty International by Russia. How do you view this support?
We welcome it, and I think that's exactly well said. This is an attempt to hide information from, first and foremost, from the Russian people about their government's human rights record, but also globally about activities that Russia is undertaking in Ukraine and has in the past elsewhere. So we welcome that support and agree with it.
What message do you have for Russian citizens who are now concerned about human rights? They're sitting within the countries or the confines of the borders, and they don't know what will happen from now on.
As I said before, we will double our efforts to find the ways to cover the violations that the Russian government is undertaking, deliver it safely as we can to those who want to be informed and exposed to this record of human rights, and we will not stop in our struggle to bring to justice all of those who are responsible for, amongst state officials and decision makers, for human rights violations. It's really, as I was saying before, a sadness for the Russian people that this additional measure is being taken to silence their voices and to block their access to fact-based information about human rights violations that their government is undertaking.
Well, thanks again for your time, Marie. We'll leave it there for today.
Thank you very much.
That's Amnesty International's Eastern Europe and Central Asia Director Marie Struthers talking to us on the line about Russia's recent decision, or specifically the Prosecutor General in Russia having declared Amnesty International an undesirable organization and then banning the global human rights group from operating in the country.
Start your day right with Channel Africa Breakfast.
That smells delicious.
Live, 5 days a week. A fresh morning, a fresh perspective. Stay tuned to Rise and Shine on Channel Africa. Your morning companion with the stories that matter. This is Rise and Shine on Channel Africa.
On our social media platforms, we always invite you to speak to us with your questions, your comments.